Hello and welcome to my channel. Uh, Today I have come up with the second lecture of animal tissues, and today's topic is epithelial tissue. So let's begin with the topic. So first we must try to know what is the meaning of the word epithelial. If we break down the word epithelia into two parts, that is epi and another is thelio, we see that the meaning of the portion epi is upon, means upon, or we can say on. And if we see the meaning of the word thelio, it means to grow. So what does it basically means in biological terms? In biological terms means to grow over other tissue. So what it basically means, suppose if this is a particular tissue, epithelial tissue will be a tissue which will grow on top of this tissue. Okay, if this is a tissue, epithelial tissue will be a tissue which will grow on this tissue or upon this tissue. That's what is being said here, that epithelia means to grow over other tissue. That's what's the meaning of epithelial. Now let's see what is basically an epithelial tissue. An epithelial tissue, it is basically composed of one or more layer of cells, and it covers the external and the internal surface of various body parts. Okay, epithelial tissue, it means that it is a type of tissue which can either be one cell thick or it can be multiple cells thick. This we will come later on in this topic. Now let's see what it means by external and internal surface. Okay, first come to this diagram. See, as I said just now, that epithelial tissue is a tissue which grows on a tissue. Now see, this is a tissue, if this is a tissue, epithelial tissue, just see, it is growing on this tissue. If this is a tissue, epithelial tissue is growing on this tissue, and thus the statement gets justified here. Now it is saying that it can grow on the external surface or on the internal surface. Okay, suppose if this is a body tissue and this is an epithelium. Now see, it is shown that this is the outside environment. Then what does it mean? It means that the epithelium or the epithelial tissue is present on the external part. If this is our skin, if this portion is our skin, then this must be the outside environment. That's why the epithelial tissue is on the external part. Okay, now suppose this is another case where this is a body tissue and this is our epithelium. Now it is showing free surface. This free surface, it means that it consists of any sorts of body fluids. Now when we will encounter a body fluid, if the epithelium is present on the internal surface, then only we will able to encounter a body fluid. That means this diagram is trying to show that the epithelium is present on the external surface. For example, the skin epidermis. That's why it is shown outside environment, because our skin obviously faces the outside environment. And this this diagram is trying to show that the epithelium is present on the internal side. Okay, this free surface can consist of water or any kinds of food or any kinds of body fluids. In such a case, the epithelium will be present on the internal surface and not on the external surface. I hope this is clear. Now let's come to the general location. Okay, epithelial tissue, it forms the outermost layer of the skin over the whole body. The whole body, that is the skin, The skin, the outermost layer of the skin is formed by the epithelial tissue. Other than that, it also covers our organs, it lines our body cavities and cavities of the whole hollow body organs. Okay, now this is the general location of the epithelial tissue. Now this, based on this general location, we can also classify epithelial tissue into, we can say, three types. If it is covering the organs, then we say the epithelium. That means it is referring to the external side. If the epithelium is covering the external side, we will call it epithelium. If it is present on the lining, that means it is present on the internal surface or the internal part, then we will refer to it is an endothelium. And mesothelium, it covers the pleural cavity, pericardial cavity, peritoneal body cavity, and also the urogenital tract. Now we will try to visualize through diagrams where this mesothelium is basically present. For example, pleural, first coming to the pleural cavity. Pleural cavity, this cavity is present in lungs. This is our lungs. Okay, now see, this is our pleural cavity. This is our pleural cavity. Okay, now this pleural cavity is being lined by the visceral pleura and this parietal pleura. This visceral pleura and parietal pleura is nothing but our mesothelium. Okay, as you see, it is being shown that the mesothelium lines the pleural cavity. In this diagram, this parietal pleura and the visceral pleura is our epithelium, and it is lining the pleural cavity. Okay, now let's come to pericardium. This structure or pericardium, it covers our heart. Okay, this is present in our heart. And if this is the pericardial cavity, now see, just like the structure we saw in lungs, here comes the parietal layer and here comes the visceral layer. This visceral layer and the parietal layer is lining the pericardial cavity, and thus this parietal layer and the visceral layer is forming the mesothelium in our heart. Now let's come to another diagram. This is the diagram of our abdomen. Okay, now the abdomen has the peritoneal cavity. Okay, and this peritoneal cavity is being lined by the visceral peritoneum and the parietal peritoneum. Same concept applies here. This is the peritoneal cavity, and the mesothelium, that is visceral peritoneum, and the parietal peritoneum is lining the peritoneal cavity. Okay, this is the location of the mesothelium. Okay, now let's come to the origin. Now in the lecture 1, as I said, that the epithelial tissue has three types of origins, that is ectoderm, it is mesoderm, or the endoderm. Okay, these are certain examples being given here. If this is a skin epidermis, then it will present the ectoderm, that is the outside layer. We can also call it epidermis, or we can also refer to as the epithelium also. If this is the coleomic epithelium, and this will originate from the mesoderm of the embryo, and we can also call it as the mesothelium. If this is a gut epithelium or a mucous membrane, then it will originate from the endoderm of the embryo, and we can also call it the endothelium also. Now let's come to a very important part, that is the structure of the epithelium. We will study each and every point one by one and try to see it in the diagram. Okay, now let's see what the first point says. The first point says the cells of the epithelium are very closely placed and form continuous sheets. What is meant by closely spaced? That means the cells which are forming the epithelial tissue, this is the cell 1, cell 2, cell 3. These cells is forming an epithelial tissue. Now you see that there is hardly any space between the cells. There is no space. That is, they are very closely spaced. Okay, there is no space between the cells. That's why we say here that it is an closely spaced. These are without any intercellular space or intercellular matrix. Okay, now in the first point, as it is mentioned that the cells are very closely spaced, so obviously there will be no space between the cells. The space between two cells is called the intercellular space, and the matrix or the extracellular matrix between the two cells is being referred to here as the intercellular matrix. Now since there is no space between two cells, okay, there is obviously no intercellular space or there is no intercellular matrix. Now this epithelium, they rest upon a basement membrane. Okay, this is a tissue, it has to rest on something. Okay, this structure is nothing but the basement membrane. Now this is the basement membrane, this is our basement membrane. It composed of two parts. One is the basal lamina, another is the reticular lamina. These two portions, they basically form the basement membrane, and this basement membrane is the structure on which the epithelial tissue has been established. So what is the function of the basement membrane? The basement membrane provides selective exchange of chemicals between epithelial cells and the surrounding blood vessels. It also provides an elastic support. Obviously this is a structure on which the epithelial tissue is established, and therefore obviously it will provide a support. So what does this basement membrane basically helps? This basement membrane basically helps in the exchange of the nutrients. This is our blood vessel, this capillary carrying blood. This capillary consisting of blood vessels will help in the exchange of nutrients between the epithelial cells and the blood vessels. Who is responsible for this? Basement membrane. This is the blood capillary, and exchange of nutrients is basically taking place between the blood capillaries and the epithelial cells. And also this basement membrane helps in the selective exchange of the nutrients between these three cells, and also between the blood capillaries and the cells. Now let's come to the fourth point, that is epithelial tissue do not have any direct blood supply. As we can see that there is a considerable distance between the epithelial tissue and the blood capillary. This is a considerable distance. Okay, it is not connected properly, or the blood capillaries is not connected with the epithelial tissue, therefore there is much distance between these two. Okay, they receive nutrients and oxygen from the underlying connective tissue by diffusion through the basement membrane. Now one can ask that if there is a distance between this epithelial tissue and the blood capillaries, then how is the exchange of nutrients being taking place? So how it happens? It takes place through diffusion. I mean, the nutrients from the blood are first diffused to the cells in the connective tissue, and through diffusion it ultimately enters the epithelial tissue. I mean, the connective tissue is also being made of cells, so from the blood the nutrients first enters the connective tissue, and then from the connective tissue it enters the epithelial tissue through the process of diffusion. As it is being said here, they receive nutrients and oxygen from the underlying connective tissue by diffusion through the basement membrane. Okay, this basement membrane is consisting of the connective tissue and the blood capillaries. Therefore the blood capillaries first they release the nutrients and the oxygen into the cells of the connective tissue through diffusion, and from the connective tissue ultimately the nutrients enter the epithelial cells or the tissue. Since the epithelial tissue is not directly connected with the blood capillaries. Now the epithelial cells are polygonal in shape. These these points will be explained later on. They can be flat, they can be cuboidal, or they can be columnar. The plasma membrane of the adjacent cells are usually connected by tight junctions, desmosomes, or interdigitations. This is the cell junctions. Cell junctions can be many types: tight junction, adherent junction, desmosomes, gap junction. Their function is to link one cell with another. This is the overall function of the cell junction, that is they link one cell with the one cell with another cell, and the cell with its extracellular matrix. This is the main function of our cell junction. Epithelial cells, they possess the power of division and regeneration, and the free surface of the epithelial cells may be smooth or may have hair-like silica. They can have cilia, they have flagella or microvilli. These are various kinds of structure which can be present on the surface of the epithelial cells or tissue. This is the cilia, this is the microvilli, and flagella can also be present, or they can be devoid of any such structure, that is cilia, stereocilia, flagella, or macrovilli. The surface of the epithelial cells can also be devoid of such structures. They can be a smooth one also. Okay, now we come to the next part, that is the types of epithelium. It is basically divided into three parts. One is the simple epithelium, another is the compound epithelium, another is the specialized epithelium. Simple epithelium, it is further divided into 5 parts, that is squamous, it is cuboidal, columnar, ciliated, and pseudostratified columnar. Compound or stratified epithelium is further divided into 4 parts, it is squamous, it is cuboidal, it is columnar, and ciliated columnar. And specialized epithelium is also divided into 2 parts. Another one is the multilayered specialized epithelium, and another is the unilayered specialized epithelium. We'll come to each of these types or classification one by one in the upcoming slides. First, coming to the simple epithelium. Okay, simple epithelium, what is the striking feature of the simple epithelium? Striking feature of the simple epithelium is that they are made of single layer of cells, that is they are one cell thick. Okay, and they form, and their location, what is the general location, is that they are found in the lining of the body cavities, the ducts, and the tubes. It occurs mainly on the moist surface where there is little wear and tear by friction. It does not cover surfaces that is exposed to mechanical or chemical abrasions. Okay, this is another important point to be noted, that it is not present on surfaces which is susceptible to any kinds of injuries. That means the simple epithelium will not be present on our skin. Why? Because our skin is exposed to mechanical injuries or chemical abrasions, therefore it won't be present on the surface of our skin, or you can say the skin epidermis. Now the simple epithelium has various types. First is come to the simple squamous epithelium. So what is the striking feature of the squamous epithelium? That is, first of all, they will be single because it comes under the category of the simple epithelium, and the striking feature is that they can be flattened, they can be plate-like, or they can be scale-like polygonal cells. Just look at this diagram, that cells are very flat and they are somewhat scale-like, or they are somewhat plate-like. Not exactly plate-like, but they are somewhat look like plates, and most importantly they are very very flat. Okay, and since they are fitted like tiles in a mosaic floor, they can also be referred to as the pavement epithelium. So we get another term for the simple squamous epithelium, that is pavement epithelium, because they look like tiles. Okay, see, they have a tile-like appearance, just like the tiles of our house. They also have a tile-like appearance, and therefore they are calling the another name of simple squamous epithelium is pavement epithelium. Now another important structural feature is that the cells are so thin. Why thin? Because they are very flattened. The cells are so thin that the location of the nucleus in the center is marked by a bulge. Okay, now see here, there is a bulge around the nucleus. There is a bulge around the nucleus. Just observe these sites, that there is a bulge in the nucleus. Why there is a bulge? Because the cells are very thin, or you can say the cells are very flattened. Okay, now these are the locations you need to study. You have to memorize. There is no second option, but you just have to memorize it blindly. Another feature of the endothelium is that they have wavy margins, and since they have wavy margins, they can also be considered called as a tessellated squamous epithelium. How the wavy margin looks like? See, this is how this wavy margin looks like. See, they're looking like waves, and this is the structure of the endothelium. This is the structure of the endothelium. Okay, that is present in the lining or internal surface. And that's why this structure, due to this structure, you can also call this endothelium as a tessellated squamous epithelium. And their function is protection, respiration, excretion, secretion of the coulombic fluid. These are some of the functions you need to memorize. Now coming to a diagram of the simple squamous epithelium. The simple squamous epithelium is present in the alveoli. Where is alveoli located? Alveoli is located in our lungs. This alveoli is lined by squamous epithelium. This is our squamous epithelium. This is our squamous epithelium, and this is lining the alveolar cavity. See here that there is the basement membrane on which the squamous epithelium is resting, and it is not directly linked to the blood supply. Okay, it is not directly linked to the blood supply, as I just now discussed in the structure. It is not directly attached or linked to the blood supply, and it is resting on the basement membrane. Now this is a microscopic structure. This portion is the alveoli of the lungs, and this alveoli of the lungs is being covered or lined by squamous epithelium. See that it almost looks like one cell thick. This is the nucleus. Now see, this portion looks almost like one cell thick, and that's why the name simple. Now let's come to another type, that is simple cuboidal epithelium. As the name suggests, cuboidal, obviously the cells will be cuboidal shape. And see, observe here, the cells are like the cuboid. This is a cuboid. This is a cuboid. My drawing is not so good, so please bear with it. So see that almost they are looking like a cuboid, and they are broad as well as wide. Okay, and they have a polygonal in outline. The cells have a round nucleus. These are the striking features you need to note down. The cells have a round nucleus which are located centrally. See, they have a round nucleus. They have a round nucleus. Okay, and they are almost located at the center. Now this is a microscopic picture. The cells, see that the cells are looking like a cuboid, almost like a cuboid, and the nucleus are very round. Okay, so this is what simple cuboidal epithelium is. The striking features you need to know that the cells are cuboid, they are broad and wide, they have a round nucleus, and which is located centrally. This is the main important or striking features of the simple cuboidal epithelium. Now this location of the cuboidal epithelium. The cuboidal epithelium, these are present in the convoluted parts of the uriniferous tubule, they are present in the bronchi of lungs, they are present in the follicle of thyroid glands, and etc. etc. Their functions, their secretion, absorption and excretion, almost all the epithelium, they have more or less same function, you can say. You just need to memorize the location and the function. Now we come to another type, that is simple columnar epithelium. What is meant by columnar? That is, the cells are very taller than wide. It means that the cells are very tall in structure, but not so much wide. Although they are tall, but they are not so much wide. The nuclei are very elongated, and they lie at the basal part. So see, this nuclei is not round, they are a bit of elongated, like this type of structure. They are not exactly round, they are a bit of elongated. And where they lie exactly at the basal part. They are not located centrally, they are not located at the apical portion, they are not located here, they are located exactly at the base or the basal part. So these are the striking features of the columnar epithelium. The cells are tall and less wide. The cells are the nucleus is very elongated, and most importantly, they are located at the basal part. See that the nucleus is located at the basal part. They are located at the basal part, and they are very much elongated and not round, as we saw in the cuboidal epithelium. Where they are found, the location is stomach, their intestine, they are present in the gallbladder, they are from the lining of the gastric glands, pancreatic lobules, intestinal glands, and sweat glands. So what is its main function? Its main function is secretion and absorption. Okay. First, coming to the secretion, the gastric glands and the intestinal glands, they secrete digestive enzymes and mucus. So epithelial cells or tissue, they are involved in formation of certain structures which are called glands. What does these glands do? These glands, they release certain digestive enzymes. These digestive enzymes are very much essential for the digestion or breakdown of foods. Okay, that's the reason why they are present in intestine, they are present in gallbladder, they are present in stomach, they are present in the lining of the gastric glands, because these gastric glands, they release digestive enzymes which are essential for the digestion or breakdown of the food. Another is absorption. For absorption, a structure is responsible, that is macrovilli. These columnar cells has many macrovilli at their free ends. They're like finger-like projections. Okay, these macrovilli are finger-like projections. Just see, these are the macrovilli. What they do, they increase the surface area of absorption. What is the main function of macrovilli? Macrovilli basically increase the surface area of absorption, and since they increase the surface area of absorption, they help in absorption of water and also help in the digested food. Now the food that is being broken down needs to be absorbed. Okay, so who basically helps in absorption? This macrovilli. How they help? They help by increasing the surface area of the absorption. Now this is the structure you see. This is a goblet cell. A goblet cell basically is responsible for production of the mucus. Mucus is a lubricating substance, you can say, and this is the absorptive cells. See that the absorptive cells are displaying macrovilli for absorption of the food, or you can say water. Now simple ciliated epithelium. This epithelium, this type of epithelium, they can be columnar, or they can be cuboidal. The striking feature is that they have a cilia. What is a cilia? You can imagine cilia like and brush or hair like structure. Okay, their function is that you can imagine its function just like a brushing like function. They brush away substances or fluids. You can imagine it in this way. So the cilia in rhythmic motion create a current which transports materials that come in their contact. Basically they brush away substance or materials that basically come in their contact. Now this is a goblet cell. This goblet cell can sometimes also display the cilia for the brushing or the motion of the mucus that the goblet cell secretes. As we know that the goblet cell secretes mucus, this mucus needs to be transported or brushed away. So who helps in that? The cilia basically helps in this particular function. This is the mucus, the same diagram. This is the cilia, and this is our goblet cell. This goblet cell basically secretes our mucus. Okay, now let's come to the main function of the ciliated epithelium. Their main function is basically related to the cilia that they possess. That what is the function? That is to maintain a continuous flow of the mucus, liquid or suspended particles in one direction. In respiratory tract, as just now I discussed about the mucus, that the goblet cells which secrete the mucus needs to be maintained at a continuous flow. And who helps in that? Nothing but the structure cilia that is present on the cells. In the respiratory tract, cilia helps to push mucus towards the pharynx. In oviducts, they help to move the ova towards the uterus. We know that the ovaries, they produce the ova, and in order to reach, and the ova it needs to reach the uterus for fertilization. And who helps in its movement? The cilia present in the oviducts basically helps in its movement. In ventricles of the brain and central canal of the spinal cord, they maintain circulation of the cerebrospinal fluid. In the nephron of the kidney, the cilia keeps the urine flowing. So basically the cilia helps in the transport or movement of substances. Otherwise the substances or the materials would have accumulated or remained static at a particular position. For their transport or their movement, they basically brush those substances so that these ova, this urine and this mucus or the suspended particles can basically transport or they can move. Now we come to another very unique epithelium which falls under the category of the simple epithelium, is a pseudo-stratified epithelium. First we break down the term pseudo and stratified. Pseudo means false, and stratified means, or stratified or strata you can say, it means layers. So if we join these two words, it means false layers. Now we will see just now why it is called pseudo-stratified. So what is a pseudo-stratified epithelium? It is a single layer of columnar cells, but it appears two-layered because some cells are shorter than the others and have their nuclei at different levels. So what does it mean? That pseudo-stratified epithelium are actually single layered. Okay, they are single layered. If this is a cell, this is another cell, the cells will be columnar. My diagram is not so good. This is another cell, but there are some cells which are very short. Okay, they are present here. Okay, they are basically a single layer. This is not a two layer. Okay, but you see the cells are arranged in such a way, there are some are long cells, some are short cells. They are giving an appearance of a two layer. Although they are not two layered, they are single layer. That is why we say it is a pseudo-stratified, that is false layer. It is a single layered epithelium, but it appears two layered because some cells are shorter and the nuclei at different levels. When some cells are longer, some cells are shorter. We try to see it in a diagram. See that this cell is short, this cell is long, again this cell is short, this cell is long. Okay, see here, this cell is short but this cell is long. It seems like it is made up of two layers because some nucleus are at the top, some nucleus present at the bottom. Okay, but this is not so. This is a single layer epithelium, but due to its structure, some nuclei are present at the base, some nuclei are present at the top. That is why the reason it seems like a two layered epithelium, but it is actually a single layer epithelium. The tall cells have an oval nuclei, the short cells have a round nuclei. This is a very basic difference. The short cells, they rest at the basement membrane and never reach the free surface. You see here, if this is the short cell, they remain attached with their basement membrane. They remain at the basement membrane and they don't move towards the surface. They remain at the basement. Suppose, see this cell is present at the basement layer and they do not reach the surface. Okay, and these are some of the characteristics or features which basically makes to look a single layer cell a two layer cell, and thus a pseudostrata forms. Now the pseudostratified epithelium could be non-ciliated, that means no cilia is present, or they can be ciliated, that is cilia can be present. These structures you need to memorize or understand. I mean, these are the locations that you need to know. This is the cilia. This just see, these cells are some cells are present at the base, some cells are present at the surface. This cell is taller as compared to this cell, and the reason why, see here, it is looking like a two layer cell, two layer tissue. Sorry, this is looking like a two layer tissue, but it is actually not so. It is a single layer tissue. Okay, and the difference between this, and the only difference between these two tissue is that it has cilia and it has no cilia present. This is the difference between the two types of pseudostratified columnar epithelium. That is, one has the presence of cilia, another doesn't have any cilia. Okay, the function of the pseudostratified epithelium the same as the other epithelium: protection, secretion, movement of urine. This is the case of the ciliated pseudostratified epithelium, and of the mucus laden dust particles. This comes under the category of the pseudostratified ciliated epithelium, and the protection and secretion is same as the other epithelium. Now let's come to the second types of epithelium tissue. We have completed the simple epithelium and its subdivisions. Now we have come to another type of epithelial tissue, that is the compound or stratified epithelium. Just now I discussed with you the term stratified. That is, stratified means layers. So accordingly, compound or stratified epithelium will have many layers. So see, its structure says that compound epithelium is multi-layered. Okay, it has many striking features we need to know. The compound epithelium is multi-layered. First point. Second point is that the cells of its innermost layer can be either cuboidal or columnar, and obviously they will rest on a basement membrane. See here, this is the innermost layer. This is the innermost layer. Here in this diagram, columnar cells are shown, but there can also be cuboidal cells. Okay, these innermost cells are resting on the, if this is the basement membrane, okay, The basement, on this basement membrane is resting the innermost layer. This innermost layer, as you can see here, it is almost columnar, we can say, but cuboidal cells can also be present. These cells, these innermost cells, they divide by mitosis throughout life and add new layers of cells on the outer side. This is the outer side, we can say. What they do, these innermost cells, what they do, they divide and they replace the outermost cells. Okay, and they add, and this is how they add new layers of cells. Yeah, and this is the reason why this is called germinative layer. I mean, this innermost layer is being termed as the germinative layer. Why the germinative layer? Because they divide by mitosis and they add new layer of cells on the outer side. Okay, suppose if some cells die on this outermost surface, then these innermost cells will divide by mitosis and will replace the dead and worn out cells, as it is written that the newly added cells move and replace the worn out cells of the outer layer. Suppose it means that on this outer layer, if some cells die, these dead cells need to be replaced, and who will do the replacement? These innermost cells will do the replacement. And how? Through division through mitosis, and thus this layer is also called as the germinative layer. It's the innermost layer. So what is the function? The multilayered epithelium is found on those surfaces where constant replacement is needed due to rapid wear and tear. Okay, so this is another difference between the compound epithelium and the simple epithelium. Just now, a few moments ago, I said that the simple epithelium is absent on those regions where there is chemical abrasions or mechanical injuries. But see, the compound or the stratified epithelium is present on those surfaces where there is rapid wear and tear. Okay, then accordingly it should be present on the epidermis of the skin, because our skin is very much susceptible to chemical abrasions or injury. Therefore, in such places, that is the epidermis on the skin, we require compound or stratified epithelium. Okay, if for example, if there is an injury on the surface, then obviously the cells will die. Okay, and these dead cells will be replaced by these innermost cells. Okay, and this is the reason why this compound epithelium is present on the locations where there is rapid wear and tear, because it is multi-layered. If one cells die, the those cells will be replaced by the innermost layer. But in the case of the simple epithelium, there is only single layer of cells. The cells, the tissue is one cell thick. If they will be present on locations where there is rapid wear and tear, then it will not be impossible for those cells to be replaced. That's why they are not present in locations where there is chemical abrasions. And their functions is that the protection against drying, mechanical injury or abrasions. These are their functions, basic functions. Now let's come to the types of the stratified epithelium. That is, first comes the squamous epithelium. Squamous, the term, as I explained while discussing the simple epithelium, is that squamous cells are flattened cells. Now, what is meant by stratified squamous epithelium? Stratified squamous epithelium, it has the outer and the superficial layers are formed of the flattened squamous cells. That means the outer layer, as you can see, this is the outer layer. See, the outer layer, the cells are very flattened or plate-like, just like I showed to you in the simple epithelium. See that the cells are looking like squamous or flattened cells, and these are present at the surface, and thus this tissue is called stratified squamous epithelium. Between the outermost squamous layer and the innermost cuboidal layer, there is transitional layers. That means, if this is the inner layer and this is the surface layer, the inner layer has cuboidal cells or columnar cells can also be present. This is the innermost layer, this is the outermost layer. Between this layer there is a layer which is called the transitional layer. Why this is called the transitional layer? Because transition means change, or transition, you can call it a change. What is meant by change? Basically, see, in the surface there is squamous, flattened cells. As we move down towards the innermost layer, see that there is a change in the structure of the cells, and ultimately we reach a layer where there is columnar types of cells, columnar cells. That means there is a transition between the squamous or flattened cells to the columnar or cuboidal cells, and this is the, and that's why this region is called the transitional layer, which is formed of polygonal cells with round nuclei. I hope this is clear. See, these cells are somewhat polygonal shape, and this intermediate region is called the transitional layer, because this, as we gradually move down from the surface to the innermost layer or towards the inner portion, there is a change in the structure of the cells from the squamous to the columnar cells, and thus this portion is called the transition, showing a transition, and therefore this structure or this intermediate layer of cells or tissue is called as a transition layer. These cells are metabolically active and gradually become flattened as they move towards the outer side. Okay, now these cells are very metabolically active, and if we move towards the outside, you can see they are becoming flattened. That means from the columnar cells to the surface layer, if we move from the innermost layer to the surface layer, these transitional layers, the transitional layer of cells, are getting converted gradually from the columnar cells to the squamous cells or the flattened cells. That's why this intermediate region is called the transitional layer. I mean, it means that if we move from the outside to the inside, the cells are gradually changing from flattened cells to columnar cells or cuboidal cells. If we move from the innermost layer to the outside layer, then the cells will basically show a transition or change from the columnar cells to the flattened cells, or we can say the squamous cells. Now it is of two types, that is keratinized cells and another is the non-keratinized. As you can see from the term, that means this type of epithelium which have something called keratin, and this type of epithelium will have something, will not have that keratin. First see what is a keratin. Keratin is basically a hard waterproof protein. Okay, and during its deposition, the outer layer of epidermis of the skin, they die. Okay, and the process of deposition of keratin is called cornification or keratinization. Okay, so keratin is basically waterproof protein, and due to its deposition, the epidermis become dead. That is, in keratinase stratified squamous epithelium, the epithelial surface is dry. Why they are dry? Because they are waterproof protein, that's why they are dry. The cells of the superficial layers, they die and lose their keratin. Why they die? Because these cells contain keratin, and due to the deposition of the keratin, the cells they die. The cytoplasm contains a highly insoluble fibrous protein called keratin, which forms a non-living covering over the epithelium. This layer forms a stratum corneum, or the horny layer of the skin epidermis. I mean, this is the horny layer or the stratum corneum. This layer consists of a non-living epidermis due to the deposition of the keratin. That means if this is a stratified squamous epithelium, then if it is a keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, they will have an additional layer consisting of a non-living covering, due to the deposition of keratin, and this layer will be called as the stratum corneum. But in case of the non-keratinized squamous epithelium, they remain moist. Why moist? Because there is no keratin, therefore no waterproof protein is present, and thus they will remain moist. That means they will remain hydrated due to the absence of the keratin. And they are living. Why living? Because since there is no keratin, therefore there won't be any deposition of the keratin, and therefore the layers will be a living layer. That means there will be no presence of an additional stratum corneum or horny layer on this non-keratinized squamous epithelium. See, this one is the keratinized one, this one is the non-keratinized one. There is no presence of the stratum corneum due to the absence of the keratin. This is a very important difference between the keratinized and the non-keratinized epithelium. Now let's come to another category of the stratified epithelium, that is cuboidal epithelium. Okay, you just need to know the location and the structure of the stratified cuboidal epithelium, nothing else. That is, the outermost layer is cuboidal. You see here, this is the outermost layer, this is the outermost layer, this outermost layer is cuboidal, and the basal layer is columnar. This is the basal layer, this basal layer is a columnar layer. That means the stratified cuboidal epithelium will consist of an outermost layer will be cuboidal in shape, and the basal layer will be columnar in shape. This is the cuboidal shape, this is the columnar. That means this is the basal layer, this is the outermost layer, and it is found in the conjunctiva of eyes, lining of the ducts of sweat glands, urethra of female, and also forms the epidermis of the fishes and many ureters. These are the location you need to memorize. Now we come to stratified columnar epithelium. Obviously they have column-like cells. It has columnar cells in both the surface layer and the basal layer. Okay, there will be only one type of cell in this stratified columnar epithelium. This is the outermost part, and this is the internal part, basal part or the internal part. See, both this layer has columnar cells. Okay, and another one is the ciliated columnar epithelium. Just one difference is that they have cilia. I mean, this one is a ciliated columnar epithelium. This is the normal stratified columnar epithelium. That means no cilia is present, and here cilia is present, and this one is the stratified ciliated columnar epithelium due to the presence of cilia, and this one is the stratified columnar epithelium. The only difference is that in this case cilia is present, and in this case no cilia is present, and other structures are same. That means the outermost part has columnar cells, and also the basal part has columnar cells, and only difference is the presence and absence of the cilia between these two structures, and the other structure is almost same. And this is the location you need to memorize. There is no other way but to memorize these locations. Now let's come to the third category and the last category of the epithelial tissue, that is the specialized epithelium. Specialized epithelium, as I said in the beginning of the lecture, that it can be multi-layered or unilayered. This is the multi-layered one. Now let's see what are the features of the specialized epithelium, which is a multi-layered. It has only one category, that is the transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium, let's see what are they say. They are less flattened but with remarkable flexibility. That means the cells are not so much flattened, okay, but that means no less flattened means there will be no squamous cells will be there, but they have remarkable flexibility. That means they have the property to extend. They have the property to extend, or they can be, just see here, they can be stretched. See, this is the normal condition, this is the stretched condition, proving the statement that it is flexible. That means it can be stretched or extended. There this layer is 6 cells thick. Here you can see there is 1, 2, 3 and 4 layers shown here. The innermost layer consists of columnar or cuboidal cells. Here it is shown columnar cells, no cuboidal cells are not shown in this diagram. And this is the innermost layer, and innermost layer, as you can see, it is consisting of columnar cells. 2 to 3 middle layers of polyhedral or pear-shaped cells. This one is the middle layer. They have a polyhedral or pear-like cells, and the surface layer of large, broad, rectangular, oval cells. They have oval cells. These cells, this is the outermost layer. These outermost layers are having oval cells, although the diagram is not seems to be able, but these are oval cells. Don't go with the diagram, actually these are oval cells. This is the outermost layer. So as you can see in the diagram, there is no such flattened cells are seen. That means in this transitional epithelium, there is no flattened cells. That is, there is no squamous cells, only oval cells and columnar cells, and in between oval cells and columnar cells there is polyhedral cells. And why they are called transitional epithelium? See, if we move from the surface towards the innermost structure, there is a change in shape of the cells. The shape of the cells are changing from oval to polyhedral to columnar. That's why there is a transition, there is a change from the oval cells to the columnar cells if we move from the outer side to the inner side. And another important feature of the transitional epithelium is that they are flexible. That means they can be stretched, and that's why they help in distension of organs. That is, they can be stretched to the maximum. It's another important feature you need to know. Now let's come to the last one, the specialized epithelium, unilayered. As from the name suggests, it will be made up of a single layer. Okay, these are of following types: sensory epithelium, germinal epithelium and pigmental epithelium. Sensory epithelium, they have columnar epithelium. That means tall cells. Okay, see this one, these are the columnar epithelium. Okay, now some of the columnar cells are specialized for perception of sensory stimuli. The outer end of the cells have sensory hair, and the basal ends have connected with the sensory nerve fibers. This is the outermost end. The outer end is sensory hair. These will sense any kind of stimuli, and they'll pass on the stimuli to the nerve fibers present at the basal part. This is the basal part. This is the sensory hair. At the outermost part, they will receive the signal or the stimuli and pass on the signal to the nerve fibers. Now see that they are one cell thick. These all are single cell. This is a single cell, this is a single cell, this is a single cell. These all are single cell. That means they are unilayered. They are also present at the germinal epithelium that lines the ovaries and the seminiferous tubules of the testes. This is the structure of an ovary. Okay, and this is our germinal epithelium. This germinal epithelium will produce the ova in this case. So I hope I have been able to explain all the structures related to epithelial tissue in this discussion. And in the next lecture I will be coming up with the topic called gland, which is also part of the epithelial tissue. Thanks for watching this video and stay tuned for the upcoming lectures. Thank you.